Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ike MMA show, the Ike MMA podcast, whichever you prefer. And I'm joined in studio with the champion himself, Modestas. God, I want to make sure I get it that I pronounce it correctly. Um, Mr. Modestas Bukuaskas.
Bukauskas.
Bukauskas.
There you go. There you go. You said the first name correctly, though, mate.
Modestas Bukuaskas.
Perfect, mate.
Thank
Perfect.
you very much. So look, how have you been? I've been trying to get in the show for what seems like forever now, but so many people are chasing after you, not just for the fights, but for coaching, for interviews, for everything that you can imagine.
Yeah. No, it's been a pretty mad one, to be fair. Obviously, then I've just been sort of keeping my head down. I had negotiations with fights and things fall through and stuff like that. It's been a mad 2022. But obviously we finished it on a massive high,
You
and
did, yeah.
like I say, it's absolutely amazing though to finally be able to speak to you, sir.
No. For me, it's actually, for me, it's amazing to speak to you because when I saw the promo of the fight, or last fight that you had in December, New Year's Eve, I was thinking, wow, I mean, you only recently had another fight, and I thought you would have taken some time off just to recoup and to recharge your batteries, to rest, and then start training, preparing for the next fight.
Yeah. Well, this is it. To be honest, mate, after this last fight, I took about 3 days off, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't just keep eating and chilling. Like, it just didn't seem natural for me, you know. So
Mhm.
I kind of just got straight back into training. Obviously, I kind of just ate what I wanted. I didn't really necessarily have like a strict kind of sort of regimen, and then yeah, as soon as it hit the next Monday, went straight back in because I've got to be ready. Because if there's an opportunity that arises at some point, I've got to be ready. So and of course, I'm just a martial artist. I want to improve my skill set. I want to be as good as possible in every art. Now's the time where I can actually really improve my skills, because when you're preparing for a particular opponent or a fight, you're just training, preparing for the fight, getting fit, getting in shape, making sure you're able to do the rounds and put yourself in bad positions. Whereas, you know, now I can actually learn like add new skills to the repertoire. So you got to enjoy that part of it. But yeah, I'm always ready, mate. Always ready.
I have mentioned that again, when I saw the fight for the fight that you won on New Year's Eve, I was thinking, just in the run up to that, when I saw the promo card for the first one, I was thinking, okay, this is a bit crazy. Even on New Year's Eve, you still want to get one more win in the bag. But how did you do that? I mean, between the previous fight that you had and that fight, I mean, you got Christmas and the holidays in between. So I mean, how did you want to balance that and still enjoy yourself with the family, but still prepare for the upcoming fight?
Yeah, so obviously during Christmas, so now I'm actually in Newcastle. Usually I'll go to Newcastle, which is my stepmom's parents' house, and we usually just chill there for Christmas. But I didn't actually go there this year because obviously I had to prepare for my fight.
Mhm.
That's why I'm there now. I'm kind of doing
Sure.
like a delayed sort of celebration. Even still, whilst training, like me and my dad, we've been doing some unorthodox Rocky style type stuff on the beach. Training because, like I say, I've got to stay in shape and I've got to stay ready for an opportunity. But yeah, man. I mean, like, look, at the end of the day, I had to just. It was kind of the same. It kind of felt good in a way for me to be doing something unconventional, different, kind of against the grain, something different from the rest of the
Mhm.
from the rest of the world. I have to prepare for a fight whilst everyone's chilling and relaxing. It's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of like a very satisfying feeling knowing that I'm working for something and I know I'm going to get my reward later. Everyone's getting their reward now. I'm just going
Yeah.
to wait to get my
Uh-huh.
reward a
Yes,
little bit
yes,
later.
yeah. Mhm.
So yeah, man. Like, I still had like a little glass of Bailey's, had a piece of cake on Christmas Day. However, obviously the rest of the meals were like really on point, like just turkey, vegetables, and potatoes. And obviously I still trained. I went on my 5 mile run.
Mhm.
And I made the whole Christmas dinner for like 4 hours, work slaving away in the kitchen.
Ah, you
So,
did.
but
That's
and
good.
not actually able to eat like half of it. So, but it was nice, spending time with my dad, my sister, and stuff like that. So, Yeah, man. It was only different to the sense that obviously it was at a time where everyone else is relaxing, even like people are kind of not wanting to train, so you have to figure out your own ways of doing things. But aside from that, like mate, like I say, I'll always find a way to train, stay in shape, and of course, I had a big goal in mind, so there was nothing getting in the way of me training for such a big event.
I must say, for fighting, for an event to be held on New Year's Eve, I mean, I'm not sure if any of the bigger promotions have done that, the UFC or Bellator, but for the fact that they did this on New Year's Eve and that you won, I mean, that's something that people will never forget. I mean, you win the fight, your fans see that, fight fans see that, and then they celebrate the new year. But I mean, the fact that it's New Year and they saw that fight, saw you win, is I think it makes it far more memorable.
Yeah, 100%. And Cage Warriors have only done one other event on New Year's Eve, which was when Conor McGregor won the double belt. So obviously, this has sort of a connotation to history. The only other time was when McGregor became double champ, and now we've got three. Was it two new champions? Sorry, I think it was two. Yeah, two new champions crowned on New Year's Eve. Myself and Shaq Hack. So yeah, it was obviously a very memorable event. No other MMA shows were on at that time, so all eyes were peeled watching Cage Warriors. So obviously, it put more attention, more eyes
Yes,
on us
yes.
fighting, which means that obviously you put on a better performance, more people are going to know about it. And Yeah, and obviously even for American fans, like a lot of them would have been watching it at like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes,
So
yeah.
for them, it was kind of like like I say, just so many eyes were on that event. So obviously that just amplified the traction that we got from this particular event.
Moving away from that, you're someone who's been very successful in mixed martial arts, despite the controversies and all the obstacles you had to overcome. Can you give me can you give me a bit of as in your backstory, as in how it all started, as in where you're from, just your roots, basically?
Yeah. So I was born in Lithuania. Um, I actually moved to the UK when I was 3 years old. So technically, I'm Lithuanian by nationality, but obviously been bred in Britain, I guess you could say. Um, and yeah, I've been living in London pretty much most of my life. So that's actually why, obviously, I go down as a Lithuanian and I bring out the Lithuanian flag because I'm technically a Lithuanian. Even though
Yeah.
I don't sound it.
No, of course,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, 5 years old, I remember my dad was a no holds barred Soviet Union heavyweight champion. So back when MMA wasn't sort of mainstream, he was winning championships. A very dangerous man. So if I got told to clean my room, I had to fucking clean my room.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously he was a massive influence for me. But at 5 years old, he was like kind of showing me a couple of kicks, a couple of punches on the pads, and it was kind of started off very fun, and then
Mm.
it got very serious very quickly. It's like, okay, now we're going to train properly, like no more pissing about
Hmm.
basically. So yeah, and then I won 4 British kickboxing titles. The last two with that, and they I won those when I wasn't even taking fighting like amazingly seriously. Like in terms of it wasn't my main sport. I competed in judo. I learned sambo from my dad. Like I said, I competed a lot in kickboxing. I had about 40 kickboxing fights when I was younger. But I played tennis first, then I played basketball. Then I went to America from 16 to 18 years old for my last 2 years of high school in Louisiana. I
Mm.
played basketball for the high school team there. I wanted to get a scholarship to play Division One. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for me. And so then at 18 years old, I came back home. My dad was like, yo, so, kind of like my goal always in my life was to become a professional athlete. That was my dream since day one. So my dad says, "Listen, this is your shot. I think you can do it here." So yeah, as soon as I got back when I was 18, we got back into training, started my amateur career, and then at 21 I turned pro, and then here we are.
Speaking of mixed martial arts, I have to say that given your history and what you just outlined there, it seems like you're very well rounded when it comes to sports. As in, you tried your hand at actually every sport you think of, basketball, BJJ, especially within combat sports.
Yeah.
Um, but can you kind of like describe the transition that led you to mixed martial arts, and how did you get into that?
Yeah, so I actually played American football when I was in America. So as well, I played that for I basically it got to the point where it started overlapping with the basketball season. I went over there for basketball, so I actually discontinued playing. But I
Okay.
think I was actually a little bit better at American football than I was at basketball. Clearly, being like a contact sport. But my dad, I've been training in martial arts since I was a little kid. So it only made sense that when I did that I was like sort of very good at like the contact side of things and doing good at martial arts. I think the kickboxing background definitely helped me with the stand up, even like the boxing techniques that we were using. And yeah, it just like I say, it just slowly grew from there. And I just kind of, with all the knowledge that I learned from my dad, I kind of just like, I went to different clubs and stuff like that and started learning and adding. And that's all it is in martial arts. It's all about just adding different things to your game, trying to get different like kind of different golden nuggets from different areas and like mixing it all together and then putting it out there. But I think the athleticism I definitely gained from playing things like American football and basketball. Obviously, I did judo as well, so it was lucky that I was exposed to a lot of different sports, a lot of different styles of fighting. So it means now that the advantage I have is that I can pick up techniques very quickly. So that's one thing that will stick with me till the day I die, which I'm very obviously thankful for also.
Um, you say that your father was training you in mixed martial arts from the very tender age of 5 years old. So it only made sense for you to go into that sport. But this is something I ask virtually every athlete and virtually every other person affiliated with combat sport. Um, were there any concerns for your health, especially for when you're receiving probably some serious injuries, particularly to like your head and areas such as that?
Um, I don't know. It's all I knew, like
Mm,
it's kind of all I knew was I had to fight.
okay.
I think
Okay.
but I was a bit too young to really know about head injuries or, know that. I just thought sparring was just a normal rite of passage for kids. I just thought that's what just happens. Like if you're doing this is how it goes. Later on in life, you kind of realize that obviously, but I didn't have a concussion until I was about 22. Like so it's actually like I haven't had any like serious head injuries till like later on, and even then I rarely get those types of injuries. So I don't think there was ever a problem about like my safety. For the longest time I thought I was never going to get injured either, like in
Mm,
terms of knee injuries, until again like 22, 23. So you almost feel like you're unstoppable at one
yeah.
point, and then you
Mhm.
realize, oh well, you're not actually as unstoppable as you thought you were. When like I say, you start getting injuries and things happen to your body. It's almost weird. Like you hear all these athletes, oh, I've got this injury and I've got that injury, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I've never had one. And then when you finally get it, you're like, oh, now I see what you're freaking talking
Yes,
about.
yes, yeah.
But um, but again, I think the way I've trained as well and the way I've built up my body makes myself actually safeguarded to not be so prone to injuries, which I'm also thankful for because my dad's taught me the right way. Although we train hard, we always train smart. So that has definitely carried on throughout my life.
Um, Now when I first heard about you, I looked into not just your backstory, but I looked into a big issue that you were actually attached to that you had been involved in. It was regarding the UFC. Now, if you, I will understand if you tell me to mind my own business, and I'll edit this a part of the video out. I'll cut it out if you like.
Yeah.
Um, but what exactly happened between you and the organization? I mean, I've read about it, but again, there's nothing that compares to actually asking the person involved themselves.
Yeah. Oh no, there was like I said, there's no hard feelings, no bad blood. Obviously, it was very upsetting for me.
Mm.
At the end of the day, it's a ruthless business. Listen, in MMA, if you win, you're the king, you're the man. You back up your words, you'll reap the rewards. But if you don't, Simple as that. Like people in this world, people only care about the winners. They don't care about the
Mm.
losers. I mean, as sad as it is, there's no there's no runners up prize. There is only you are number one, and that's all that matters in this game of MMA. So the fact that I had three losses on the trot, the fact that in my last fight, 10 weeks out, and this is the mad thing, I didn't disclose. Fighters always go into fights with certain injuries or things that are bothering them, but they don't disclose it, and then they disclose it after. So, oh well, I had this and that. And obviously, I wanted to keep my pride together. I'm like, well, I don't want to tell people that I have an injury, but I'm just going to go and try and do it anyways because I know I can compete, I can fight. But 10 weeks out from the Khalil fight, I actually really badly injured my knee. I have the MRI and everything from that day. Even the doctor said, like, yeah, you'll be able to compete, but you really need to get this sorted. And he said the only reason why I am is because he knows that the strength of my knee, the strength of my legs, like the muscle around it, is basically holding everything in place. So obviously, then that happened in the fight. And listen, I know that I didn't compete to my full capabilities, and I did essentially talk a big game only because I know and I really truly believe in myself and what it is that I can do. And obviously you've got to sell yourself as well. This is the entertainment business. You've got to be entertaining as well as outside the cage as you are inside the cage. And
Mm.
unfortunately, I just didn't live up to the expectations. I didn't live up to the hype or the things that I'd been saying. The Ikeojiako fight, you could say, is very controversial. I definitely think I won that fight. That was one of the only fights where I actually really, kind of showed more of my skill set. So it was very sad for me that in those fights, what was more upsetting, more than the injury, more than getting cut, was that I did not show what I know I can do. And, that's just part and parcel of fighting under pressure, under the big lights. You have to be able to perform. It doesn't matter what you do in the training room. All that matters is what you do on the day of the fight. That's all that matters. So, and all that matters is that you win. So if you don't win and you're not performing like the way that you should, unfortunately, things aren't going to go very well for you. And that's essentially what happened to me. So, I understand that. I understand that it's part of the game, but I knew that my tenure with the UFC was not over. I knew that I would come back one day, and that is essentially the journey that I'm still currently on.
Okay, that actually brings me to my next question. Um, Outside of the UFC, looking at your fight record, I mean, you've done so well. I think you only had, is it one amateur fight?
Oh no, that in on Tapology, don't even look at that. My
Ah,
amateur records are 7-1.
well, that's good. I mean, your overall fight record is is really, really good. My next question to you is you know about all the controversies going on in the UFC now. There's the James Krause betting scandal, James Krause himself. There's Dana White hitting his wife on New Year's Eve. Not to say that's funny, but it doesn't look good for him. And then beyond that, it doesn't look good for the organization. And then there's the poor judging that's happening within the organization. If the opportunity were to be given to you, would you go back to the UFC if they wanted to take you back on?
Oh, that's my goal. That is what will
Oh,
happen. I will go to the UFC, and I know it. That's what I want. To me, the UFC is the biggest organization in the world. Yeah, there's these scandals, but look, mate, there's all sorts of stuff going on everywhere in the world, in all
yeah.
different promotions, and it's just the fact that UFC is so heavily scrutinized that they're the ones that are being put under this massive magnifying glass. You know what I mean? So, um, you know, at the end of the day, it has always been my dream to fight in the UFC. When I got there the first time, that was like, oh my god, like I feel like literally my like everything has just come to light for me. Like the picture that was once black and white is now filled with loads of different colors everywhere. That's what it felt like, and that's
Mm.
essentially, I know that there's sort of unfinished business as well. It's like I went there, I didn't perform the way that I should have, and now I've come out. I've just won two fights on the trot, and now I'm knocking on the doors of being back there again. Look, when you look at it, who's been heavily promoted the most, who's got the most traction, who's got the most pull and generating the most attention, it's the UFC.
Mm.
So ultimately that's where I want to fight for right now. Like, now don't get me wrong, I would never obviously rule out or cancel out any other promotion because there's so many amazing promotions out there in the world. But of course, like, you know, it's no secret that I want to fight in the UFC again.
Well, I'm gonna delve a little bit deeper into that. Probably something that people don't like to talk about, and that's money. There's still the issue of fighters within the UFC. A large majority of their fighters don't feel they're being paid their worth. It's just a few of the golden boys, Conor McGregor, John Jones, that they're, in fact, to the point that if they do something like, say, they're involved in some sort of crime outside of the cage, the UFC and Dana White always tend to look the other way, just make some sort of random excuse for them. I mean, is that something? And again, I bring Jake Paul's just signed up with PFL, and he's has already kind of stipulated and described all sorts of things he's going to be working on to boost their promotion, probably make it very attractive for fighters, and especially in terms of pay. I mean, the issue of pay that doesn't deter you from maybe looking at other big names within the mixed martial arts promotion scene.
Oh, of course. So like I said, I'll never rule out any other promotions and stuff like that. At the end of the day, obviously, it's the business where it's prize fighting at the end of the day. You know, you're out there to try and make money, and you're trying out there to sort out your families, and you know, but at the same time, you want to kind of sort of leave your mark and leave your legacy and stuff like that. And it's just, you know, I feel like I definitely, because I'm still very young, I'm only 28. Like I've still got like time to make my crack at the UFC for the second time. And stuff like that. So that's why I've just been like, you know, and I really like I really like working with them. It's you know, I really like working with them as well, like the way
Yeah.
that they take care of their athletes. And now, again, I'm not saying that, you know, all the other promotions wouldn't do the same, but you know, it's just like I say, like I feel like I definitely deserve to be there. And yeah, now, like, look, don't get me wrong, freaking PFL, Bellator, you know, all these other big KSW, there's amazing promotions out there as well. And, you
Mm.
know, like I say, we'll see what the sort of the future holds for me. But of course, like, my heart is set with being back into the
Yeah.
UFC because I know I can compete there. I know I can compete at the highest level, and ultimately, that's where I want to be right now.
No, there's no question, there's no doubt, despite what people think of them, what people think of Dana White, the UFC do know how to make their fighters, do know how to make a fighter a star, turn him into a star. So that is one thing that they definitely got in the bag. No arguments there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Go on if you're gonna add
No, no,
anything
no.
to
Yeah,
that.
no, no. I was definitely going to say, like, if you look at it, it's like the main promotion that's been built up from the get go, from day
Yeah.
one. You know,
Mm.
when MMA became mainstream, it was the UFC that was doing it, and that's why they've got the biggest pool. See how big MMA has grown over the years, and yeah, it's amazing to be a part of that.
Now, there's one person that you've always mentioned every win, every success that you achieve within the sport. And you've already highlighted how he introduced you to mixed martial arts, and that is your father. I mean, what is I mean, there's the obvious one, of course, is your dad, so you're very close to him. But I mean, has he always been, as in a very prominent figure in your life, even outside of combat sports?
Yeah, 100%. He's taught me a lot of life lessons that I need to learn. He's taught me about discipline, about working hard. This is why I have such amazing work ethic, is because of him. The reason why I present myself the way that I do in front of people, I try and be polite, I try and be courteous, is also because of him, and obviously my mum as well. But you know, like I say, if we're speaking he's always put me on the right path. He's put me on the right direction. He's always looked after me as well. He's always been there for me when no one else has, you know. And that's another big thing that I've had in my life, is that, you know, when things turn the wrong way, and he'll always be really honest with me. You know, he'll tell me. He said, I always would tell you if I don't think, like, you know, that maybe you need to do something else, and like, I'll tell you from the heart. But he says, Modestas, I know you've got it. I know I truly believe in you, and I think you should believe in yourself. You know, so he's he's definitely an amazing, and our relationship as a father and son is just absolutely amazing also. Like, we're like best friends. Like, we have loads of jokes together. Like, you know, our relationship has only grown through the fighting career. So yeah, he's a very prominent figure in all areas of my life. And yeah, I'm so glad that I can have this relationship alongside the fighting career, which is a very dangerous and volatile one. So to have someone so close to you to be there for the ride is obviously absolutely amazing, and I know 100% I will be able to make up for all the stress and hardship that we've had to face this whole time by like taking care of him and the rest of my family financially.
Of course, no, of course, definitely. You never forget those who are with you from day one. Never, ever,
100%.
never. Okay. Following your as all the success we achieved in the sport, there's no question that you're one of the main figures within the sport, especially here in the UK scene. That people do, as I said before, they're chasing you for your time, they're chasing you for your talents and your skills and you for your knowledge. Obviously you are coaching and you're helping other fighters as well, aren't you?
Well, I mean, I'm I teach private, so like I'm a personal trainer as well. So obviously, I like to make an income from teaching clients. Um, but I have taught a couple of people, like obviously my friend, my other teammates at BST. I've taught another fighter called Louis. He's just won on Cage Warriors Academy. Actually, I've been cornering Will Curry, who's also another one of my main training partners and really good friends. So yeah, man, like I've got people that I am training, and yeah, and I do believe that the coaching, and I coach at Pure Jiu Jitsu actually, which is in Acton for one of my really good friend Aria's gyms. And yeah, man, like I do think that teaching also helps to improve just your own knowledge and helps you to become better at the game because you're constantly going over certain techniques that you like to use and stuff like that. So yeah, it's amazing to be able to also give back, give back to the community and give back and see other people succeed also.
Yeah. So for a typical fight, how do you normally get ready for that? As in you personally, what do you think is the best regime that you'd probably put yourself through to make sure you've got the best chance of achieving a win on the night on fight night?
So at least 1 liter bottle of gin before the workout and at least 1 liter after. No, I'm joking. I'm only messing. No, no, no. I'm only messing. I know you're probably thinking like, where the hell is this guy going with this one?
Yes, I was mad.
Yeah, no, 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 nothing like that, mate.
Mm,
Nah. To be honest, it's just a continuation of what I do normally. So,
sure.
how I said I train, twice a day, 6 days a week. And some days it just kind of depends on how sore the body is. Sometimes you have to take one session off just to let the body recuperate. I think at the end of the day, just kind of you just got to feel yourself and feel your body. But yeah, that's the general gist of it. And when I'm not preparing for a particular opponent, I will just be trying to improve my skill set. So I might go
Okay.
do more jiu-jitsu or more striking or whatever. Do the sessions planned, but maybe have a bit more of a focus on working a particular art or working a particular position or whatever, or just trying to improve my knowledge. But then when it comes to preparing for a fight, things become a bit more like kind of ramped up where you had to get prepared for 3 rounds or for 5 rounds. You put yourself in more awkward positions. Like you're doing things that are specific to more to your opponent as opposed to I'm just training to improve my martial arts abilities. So realistically, I'm just training all the time, mate. It's all the
Mm,
same. And
yeah.
when it's out of camp, you're like, for example, it's not gonna make a massive difference if like I miss one session in the week. It's like okay, I'm gonna just do another session this time or whatever. But I'm always train every single day. But yeah, when it comes to fight camp, then like I say, everything's just a bit more regimented, a bit more strict, just how it should be, really.
And when it comes to cutting weights, making weight, have you ever had to do things so drastically, so severely that you do find yourself passing out or just losing your mind, that you just don't feel yourself?
Um, I've never had an issue with making weight.
Okay.
I've never really passed out or anything like that. Like all these stories, these fighters, I can understand why they would because I felt very weak and very sluggish. It's just how it goes when you're cutting weight sometimes. Like especially when I bloody competed at middleweight, I had to cut a load of weight for that. But yeah, like my body's like kind of filled out. Like my body actually does hold a lot of water, so I can lose quite a lot. So yeah, man, like I've never really had any issues really cutting weight.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it because there are some horror stories I've heard. You must have seen it yourself. Some guys are step on the
Yeah,
scale and actually just faint because they've been
yeah,
the
yeah,
calorie deficit has been so severe.
yeah, yeah.
Last but not least, Modi, are not are or rather, is there any shout outs you want to give out to anyone? I know there are some obvious names in there, but anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Oh, mate, the look. Do you know what I'm gonna have to start doing? I'm gonna have to start writing on a piece of paper a whole long list because there are just so many people that have been helping me. But
Yeah.
I'll just run through it as quickly as I can. But obviously, my dad Gintas, Danny Batten, Raymond from Danny Batten and Raymond from BST Academy, which is them a major that I train at. You've got Aria and Pure Jiu Jitsu. You've got Ed Ingemels, again with Jiu Jitsu. Roger Gracie's Academy, again with Jiu Jitsu. Legion, Prometheus Wrestling, in terms of just the wrestling. We've got Will Curry, one of my training partners, really good friends as well. Lucas Klinger, as well on that one. Simeon Powell, been a real big help. He actually helped me a lot before my last fight, so massive shout out to him as well. You've got Distinct Physiotherapy, Leanne always helping me out with my physio. Fighter Shop UK, Mad Max, Denniston Sutherland, my man has been sponsoring me for a long time now. Always helping me, and Iridium Sports Agency, the best sports agency in the world, and I know they've got me on the right track to be back to the UFC. So I've got to give a massive shout out to everyone there, always helping me. And yeah, man, like I apologize if I've missed anyone out, but obviously I've just got a massive stable of people always helping me, always trying to make me achieve my best. And I've got a couple of people as well who've actually just helped me like sponsorship and stuff like that. That I've got to thank. Those people know who they are, but behind closed doors, I've got to give a massive shout out to those people, and also Paul Burgess as well. He's also been a massive help to not only myself but my dad also. So yeah, that's it.
That's quite a list. That's quite a
Yeah.
long list. But no, you again, you can't forget those who have contributed to your success. Modi, thank you so much for coming on. And I think
No worries.
the next time we have this discussion, or we do this again, it might take even longer because I'm sure you've done so well. I'm going to be speaking to an agent or to a manager to speak to them, then to speak to you, so I can arrange the whole thing. Yes, that's when you're successful, that's what happens because this sort of thing got to give it to someone else to manage for you. So don't be
Yeah, yeah.
surprised.
No worries, mate. Well, look, like I say, thank you so much for speaking with me. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Finally, we got it done. But yeah, I've had a great time, mate.
Thank you so much. Guys, if you enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. You can catch the episodes not just on here on YouTube, but you also catch it on Spotify, iTunes, and on Google Podcast. Modi, once again, thank you so much. Thank you.
No worries, mate. Thank you so
Take care.
much, brother. Have a good one,
See ya.
mate. Okay, bye bye.
Bye.